going on, Fantasy Followers? Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Factor. I'm Mike, he's Matt. Let's get right into it. Matt, tell me, who is your surprise player of the week?
My surprise player of the week was no doubt Justin Jefferson. The rookie out of LSU went absolutely off in week 3 with 7 receptions for 175 yards and a touchdown. I know I said to watch the Vikings, but I did not expect this performance from Justin Jefferson, and I don't think the Tennessee Titans did either.
For me, it was Seahawks receiver Tyler Lockett, who went for 9 catches, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This insane performance earned him the number 3 spot in top scorers of the week. This performance also helped the Seahawks beat the Cowboys.
All right, now before we move on to anything else, let's cover the top fantasy scorers of the week. First, we have Alvin Kamara with 44.7 points. Second, we have Patrick Mahomes with 40 points. Third, Tyler Lockett, 37 points. Russell Wilson after that with 36.8. Rex Burkhead with 34.8. Josh Allen with 32.2. Seventh is Austin Eckler with 31.3. Eighth is James Robinson with 30.9. Ninth is Justin Jefferson with 30.5. And 10th is Keenan Allen with 30.2.
Now, the next segment we're going to do is called Add and Drop. We're each going to name a few players that you should add to your team and a few that you should consider removing from your team. Matt, why don't you start with a few players you think our viewers should add to their team?
I think first off, we have Cole Beasley as a definite add. I was super impressed with the Bills' performance against the Rams. Josh Allen's having a stellar season, and so are his receiving core. Especially with John Brown out this week, I think Cole Beasley will be getting those extra targets when Allen isn't targeting Stephon Diggs. Second, I think his first week in New York wasn't the best, but once he starts learning the playbook a little bit more, I think Saquon's replacement, Devontae Freeman, add him, especially in those 10-man leagues. And then lastly, this is my on-the-fence edition. I'm going to say Sony Michel, though. Patriots running backs are kind of hit or miss, but I think he's solid Patriots #1 guy right now, especially with James White out. But don't hold me on that. Just enjoy him while you can.
Exactly.
With those additions, I'd like to hear some of the players that you think are a bit of a bust, draft bust, and who do you think you should drop right now?
Well, it might be too early in the season to start dropping underperforming players left and right. Here are a few guys that you should maybe consider dropping from your team. Firstly, Leonard Fournette. Through the first 3 weeks, he tallied 2 points, 25.6, and then 3.2 points. I mean, that was against Carolina, horrible run defense. In addition to that, he has to share reps with Ronald Jones and fantasy points with Evans and Godwin. My second drop is Minnesota defense. Coming into the year, they're regarded as one of the league's top defenses on paper, but we've seen through the first 3 weeks that that's not the case. They had -4, 4, and 2 points, and they allowed 28 points to the Colts, so I think you should drop them. And then finally, this third player hurts me to say, I say Jarvis Landry. He hasn't scored a single touchdown so far this season. Most of the ball's mostly been going to Chubb, Hunt, and when they do throw it to Odell, and I don't see that changing up because they're having success with the run game. So I think you should drop Jarvis Landry.
Now let's move on to Rise and Fall, where we look at some of the undefeated teams and see who we think is going to rise to 4-0 and who we think will fall to 3-1. First up, we have the 2-1 Colts versus the 3-0 Bears. I'll start. I can't believe the Bears are 3-0 right now.
Right.
I think it's a tough decision to make, but for controversy's sake, I think the Colts will win this by a field goal. Get that, Bears fans? I also think the Colts have some weapons in T.Y. Hilton and Jonathan Taylor that haven't shown up quite this season, and what better time to do that than against the Bears? I think the Bears will beat the Colts, or the Colts will beat the Bears, 24-21.
I agree. I really can't understand that the Bears have managed to remain undefeated so far. And for 2.5 of those games, they had Mr. Trubisky as their quarterback. But now they have a proven veteran quarterback in Nick Foles. I really don't see them slowing down. I believe that the defense led by Khalil Mack, Eddie Jackson, in addition to that Nick Foles offense, will have no problem against the Colts. I have the Bears 31-17.
All right, next up we have the 3-0 Seahawks at the 1-2 Dolphins. I don't think the Seahawks are losing this game. They're a wagon right now. If the Seahawks don't win this game, it'll be a complete upset. Potential NFL MVP this season, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, completely dominant defense. I don't see the Seahawks losing.
All right. I also don't see how the Seahawks could possibly lose this one. Russ is looking like he might actually get an MVP vote this year. The Seahawks seem to be finding their groove through Russ, Lockett, Metcalf, and honestly, I don't think many could slow them down right now, especially not the Dolphins. So I have the Seahawks in a blowout, 35-7.
Next up, we have the 3-0 Bills at the 2-1 Raiders. I'm going to admit, the Bills are surprising me this year. If they win this week, I'll give them some more credit. but they got to go back to classic Bills at some point, right?
Exactly.
I think this game will be very close, but all in all, I think the run game is going to be what breaks it up. I think Josh Jacobs against the defense like the Patriots is a lot different than a Josh Jacobs against the defense like the Bills. I got the Bills losing this one.
And you know what, Matt? I'm going to buy into the Bills' hype. I think this is finally the year the Patriots don't win the AFC East. The Bills really surprised me last week by holding on to beat the Rams. And quite frankly, Josh Allen's been playing at a very high level. He has to limit the fumbles, but other than that, there's not many flaws in his game at the moment. While the Raiders have also surprised me, especially when they beat the Saints, I don't see them beating the Bills. I have the Bills in a close one, though, 24-20.
Next up, we have the 2-1 Patriots at the 3-0 Chiefs. I'm very excited for this game as a Patriots fan, obviously. Another statement game for Cam and the Patriots. I'll get absolutely toasted, though, if I choose the Pats over the team who just embarrassed Lamar Jackson. I got to go with the Chiefs on this one, but I really hope that Belichick and the Patriots prove me wrong.
See, I'm also very excited for this game, but probably for a different reason than you are. I want to see the Chiefs run up the score on a weakened Patriots defense. I mean, after their offensive showing against a usually dominant Ravens defense, I'm incredibly excited to see what Mahomes, Hill, Kelsey, and Edwards-Helaire can do at home versus the Pats. I had the Chiefs in an absolute blowout, 49-16.
God, I hope not. 0-3 Falcons next against the 3-0 Packers. I do think this will be closer than you think, Falcons haters. Atlanta has some elite receivers and former NFL MVP Matt Ryan, and they put up some serious competition even against that blowout to Dallas. I think it'll be 31-21 Green Bay, though. I don't see them winning.
All right, and then once again, I agree with you. We've agreed on almost every matchup this week. I do think the Packers will win, but unlike you, I don't think it's going to be a close game. I think that Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, there's going to be too much for the Falcons. I mean, Aaron Jones he's almost top in the league in rushing yards and touchdowns. I had the Packers 38-17.
And that's about all we have for you today. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Fantasy Factor. I'm Matt.
And I'm Mike. And we'll see you next time.